Welcome back to the EFD Transfer Review, the show where we put silly season under the microscope. I'm hosting once again for the second week running with Henry away on holiday. You will be seeing him back on the channel next week. But I'm joined today by the one and only Zach Gelab. How are you doing, mate?
Mate, not too bad, thank you. Henry's always on holiday. That boy is never in England for more than 4 weeks. It's ridiculous. I don't know how he's got so much holiday. But yeah, no, apart from being jealous of Henry, I'm not too bad, thank you, mate. I'm not too bad. I'm enjoying a lot of the transfer rumours, that's for sure.
Nice. Well, to be fair, this is coming from a man who never takes holiday, an almost criminal amount. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I don't actually know where Henry is. I feel like maybe he's on a Channel Island. I feel like he's always somewhere in the English Channel.
Avoiding taxes somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. But let's get into the show, Zach, because we kick off with the transfer that we do like, or at least I like. We'll leave it up to you, Zach, whether you like it or not. And it's a transfer that is pretty much done, at least according to Fabrizio Romano. Renato Sanches to PSG, Zach. What's gone on here?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, by the time this video goes live, it could actually be official by now. Foot Mercato reported on Wednesday afternoon that Renato Sanches was in Paris to complete his medical ahead of a move to Paris Saint-Germain. And by 3 p.m, Fabrizio Romano had confirmed it on Twitter. So all things at the moment, unless something drastically changes, looks like it's going to be happening. AC Milan were initially favourites for Sanchez's signature, with reports linking the Italian champions with a move for the Portuguese midfielder throughout last season, and it would have been a really interesting move. Obviously, with Frank Kessie moving to Barcelona, there was a position there to be filled, but after Sven Botman, the Rossoneri have missed out on another player from Lille. Apparently Lille were more keen to sell to Milan, as they were offering a permanent deal worth 12 million euros for Sanches, whereas PSG are only offering a loan with an obligation to buy. But obviously, as you can understand from Sanchez's point of view, he was keen to link up with previous Lille manager Christophe Galtier in Paris, and a 15 million euro deal was eventually agreed for him to move to the French champions. I mean, also playing with the likes of Neymar, Lionel Messi, arguably the greatest player in the world. Kylian Mbappe definitely has its advantages as well. Back in June, Fabrizio Romano had reported that PSG's brand new sporting director, Luis Campos, was in contact with Sanches, as he had hoped to make the man he originally signed for Lille in 2019 the first signing for PSG of the transfer window. Now, it seems like a reunion with Campos and Galtier was too good for the player to turn down. But what will he bring to PSG, Mikey, for the upcoming season? I mean, overall, it feels like a pretty good deal.
Yeah, at that price as well. Obviously, I think Sanches was always going to be available at a decent price. But yeah, I mean, you know, he's the man that the sporting director wants. He's worked with Galtier, obviously, before in that great 2021, Liga and winning team, and impressed for Portugal, obviously, at the Euros after that. His profile has come up again in the last few years, and Galtier is a big part of that. And his most notable quality, I think, over the last few years has been his ability to drive attacks forward with the ball at his feet. He completes 8 progressive carries per 90, which is basically, when a player can, advances the ball, I think, more than 5 yards up the pitch towards goal in the opposition half, essentially. That ranks him in the top 4% of midfielders last season. And actually in the PSG squad, this figure is only beaten by Messi, Neymar, Mbappe and Verratti. All players who, are world class with the ball at their feet. So he's in great company there. And considering that Lille were only averaging 51% possession last season, PSG were averaging 63%, so a big step up. We'd expect to see Sanches on the ball a lot more in Paris, given a lot more opportunities to drive at defences, drive through the midfield and kind of open up spaces for the likes of Neymar and Mbappe. He also profiles very well for passing. He completes 6.8 progressive passes per 90. That ranks him in the top 2%. Similarly to progressive carries, just, passing instead, essentially, moves, made by the player that advance and attack upfield in the opposition half. Verratti and Neymar are the only players at PSG to beat him in this metric. And while he's a central midfielder by trade, his creative numbers are also very impressive. Last season he made shot creating actions each game, which is more than anyone in the Paris midfield. So yeah, like he's got a lot of skills kind of in his repertoire. He can play in a number of different positions in midfield. Obviously, he's a central player, but can play as a more defensive player. CM is probably where his strengths lie the most, but he can play in a more attacking role as well, as we've seen with those creative numbers. So yeah, I think he'll be an interesting player to slot into this side with Galtier. And obviously he's got other really good midfield options there as well. Obviously it'll be great to see how he plays with Verratti. He'll also be linking up with fellow Portugal international Vitinha, who was signed this summer too and has impressed in pre-season. So yeah, there's a lot of things to be positive about this move, but there is the obvious downside, which we speak about a lot and have spoken about a lot in the past, his fitness. He turns 25 next month, turns 25 this month, and yet last season was the first time in his career that he made 25 league appearances in a campaign. That was also the first time that he topped 1,500 minutes in a league season as well. So yeah, even then he missed 14 games with injury. That's still very much above average for most players. So yeah, that is obviously a bit of a worry, but like we said, a good price for him, 15 million euros. It's still a bit of a risk, but clearly Galtier and Campos seem to think it's a risk worth taking. They've obviously worked with him before at Lille, and were very keen to make the move. So Zach, yeah, what do you think? Would you be in agreement with Galtier and Campos? Do you think he's worth the risk, or would you have preferred to see PSG go for a safe option in terms of that?
I think he's definitely worth the risk. Like for 15 million euros to PSG, that's pennies down the sofa. To be quite honest, like obviously to another club like AC Milan, or I think there were points he was linked to Wolves. That is a bit more expensive, and you can understand why that'd be a bit more, a few more questions behind it. But for Sanches, I think it's a good deal. It's also another step in the kind of direction that Christophe Galtier and Campos seem to be making. Of it's not necessarily, even though I actually guess he kind of is a little bit of a big name, but it's not necessarily that superstar signing that maybe they were doing last season and the season before that, and so on and so forth, or really what kind of feels like the PSG history, especially over the last decade or so. And I think it will complement midfield nicely. I think it really will. Like so far during pre-season, apparently, I can't say I've watched every single game, but Verratti and Vitinha have been playing double pivot, and they've been fantastic with it. Maybe Galtier can also find a way of also fitting in Sanches as well. And after that, you never know. We might find the system that unlocks PSG to the Champions League.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree, Zach. Very much a system player who Galtier knows how to use. But what do you guys think at home? Is this a smart signing or too much of a risk from a PSG standpoint? Let us know in the comments below. And let's move on to the transfer that we don't like so much.
Now, onto the transfer we are not fans of. Well, I say we. Mikey wrote this script. I actually don't mind this transfer as much. For Cubs, who is it?
It's James Maddison to Newcastle, the title of this video. I think that there are reasons to be optimistic about this transfer, or to like it for sure. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan for some reasons that we'll get into. But yeah, one of the biggest stories coming out this week is Newcastle's pursuit of James Maddison. The Magpies have now had 2 bids rejected for the 25-year-old, according to reports. The Guardian reported on Tuesday that their second offer was worth £45 million plus $5 million in add-ons. They're apparently also keen on Harvey Barnes. Obviously, he would be taking up that left-wing position, perhaps vying for a place with Alan Saint-Maximin. The Foxes value them both at £60 million. According to the report, Leicester need to raise funds through player sales in order to buy players this summer. And their total lack of transfer activity so far backs this up, doesn't it? So in some ways, it's a bit surprising to see them value these players at such high prices, given there's only 1 month of the window remaining. James Maddison also only has 2 years remaining on his contract. But Brendan Rodgers is keen for the club not to be exploited. Obviously, we've seen reports this week as well that Chelsea are stepping up their interest in their prized defender Wesley Fofana. Rumoured asking price from Leicester for him is around £70 million or even more. So again, the kind of vultures are kind of circling over Leicester at the moment, given their situation. But should they fail in their pursuit of Maddison and Barnes, it's understood Newcastle may turn their attention to Burnley's Maxwell Cornet, who's obviously had a lot of attention on him as well this summer. He's available for a more reasonable £17.5 million. That's his rumoured release clause at Burnley. However, West Ham are also said to be keen on Cornet following their setback in their pursuit of Frankfurt's Filip Kostic. There's reports that he could stay at Frankfurt now. Juventus also interested in the Serbian international. Everton are also interested in Maxwell Cornet too. So he does seem to have options on the table there. But back to the player at hand, Maddison. Newcastle aren't that far off Leicester's asking price. Do you think, Zach, that it would be worth spending that extra £10 million to buy him?
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubting Maddison's pedigree as a Premier League attacking midfielder. He's been arguably Leicester's best player in attack throughout the past kind of 4 seasons. In his previous 4 seasons at Leicester, he's failed to register 10 goal involvements in the league just once, and last term had his most productive season to date, scoring 12 and getting 8 assists. I actually think he probably went a little bit under the radar in the end last season. And keep in mind, the Foxes struggled as well, obviously having numerous injuries all over the pitch, but Maddison did thrive. But it is worth mentioning that his creative numbers have fallen off since his first 2 seasons at the King Power. He's now only producing 1.8 key pass per 90, which is down from 2.7 back in 1920. And then there's Newcastle, where Eddie Howe has kind of exclusively been playing a 4-3-3, and Maddison's going to be wanting to play in a central role, in kind of a 10 role, a cam role, which isn't quite there at the moment. So is shoehorning him in worth the £60 million? It is also worth noting as well that Maddison has played off of the right. That's the kind of position I think that we've identified anyway, and I think most people identify as Newcastle's main target that they need to get to help out the attack, with Alan Saint-Maximin over on the left, and obviously Wilson through the middle. Now, also maybe worth spending that £60 million on someone like Moussa Diaby, who we've mentioned before, and a more specialist right winger, rather than kind of getting Maddison to play out of position per se. Now, according to the Telegraph, Newcastle were put off by Leverkusen's £60 million valuation of Moussa Diaby, but seem more than happy to maybe reach that for Maddison. That's more for a question for you guys to answer in the comments below. Who do you think they should be going for there? But also, back in March, it was reported that Newcastle's budget for this summer was £90 million. They've spent 70, around 70 so far, and they've actually made just over 20 in sales. So it makes sense as to why they're looking to spend around 40 to 50 million pounds for an attacking player. And with 2 years just left on his contract, Maddison is probably worth closer to that than what Leicester's asking price of 60 million is. I mean, it was only a couple of seasons ago we were seeing him linked with Man United for just a little bit more than that. But I need to know what you think at home. And Mikey, what do you think? Do you think that's an ideal pickup for Newcastle? You kind of mentioned that you feel like it's a bad move. Personally, I don't think it's as bad. Let us know in the comments below. But also, Mikey, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I just think the price point, I think £60 million is a lot for a player with 2 years left on their deal, who, hasn't produced the kind of creative numbers that he has in the past. That could potentially change at Newcastle, but he has been in decline in that sense. I think creativity is really what Newcastle need, and I think a more specialist winger would be more of a good fit in Eddie Howe's system personally. And the aforementioned Moussa Diaby, I think, is someone who can play on the left and right really effectively, and is younger as well than Maddison. I would personally want to go for more. But yeah, if they can get Leicester down to the kind of 45 to 50 million mark, then I think Maddison could be a good signing for them, especially if they're able to, say, integrate him into that 4-3-3 somehow, have kind of Guimaraes, Shelvey, and then maybe Maddison just a bit ahead of them. So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, like Zach said, what do you guys think at home? Do you think Maddison would be a good pickup for Newcastle, and more importantly, what is the most that you'd pay for Maddison in this situation? But yeah, that's all we have time for on Transfer Review for today. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to Euro Football Daily if you haven't done so already. Zach, if they enjoyed this video, where should they go next?
Why not head over to yesterday's Transfer Talk on Football Daily, where we went around the Premier League, I think, mostly, and possibly Europe, looking at the latest and greatest gossip. And also check us out on Snapchat on Football Daily and our transfer show, weirdly called Transfer Talk, where we also bring you the latest and greatest in transfer gossip.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. As I said, I don't really have any ideas for where we should go next, so go and check us out on Snapchat. But yeah, we'll see you very soon. Bye.